when the shadows fall around my way, and I can't find the words to pray. Your gentle voice still calls my name and lifts my soul above the pain. Through every doubt, through every fear, your presence whispers I am near. When I am weak, you make me strong. Your grace has been my song all along. Even when I walk through fire, your love will never tire. You calm the storm inside of me. Oh Lord, you set me free. Your grace that carries me through the storm, through the sea. When I fall, you lift me high. Your mercy never says goodbye. Your grace that carries me forever and endlessly. In your arms I find my peace. Your love will endlessly. I remember nights I cried alone, but you turned my tears to a sacred song. Your light broke through the darkest cloud. Now I sing your name out loud. You walk beside me when I fell. Your comfort deeper than I could tell. Every scar became a sign that your grace
lonely saloon piano played a fragile aging tune. Every note was cracked and gentle like a whisper to the moon. The wooden door behind me groaned when I stepped from the night, and the lamplight in the corner cast a soft and amber light. Dust swirled slowly through the beams like memories in the air, moving quiet, moving ancient, as if someone else was there. I took a seat beside a table carved with names of passing men, men who wandered through their valleys, lost then found and lost again. And before I dared to breathe a prayer or lift a troubled sigh, I felt mercy sit down softly on the chair across from mine. In that empty, quiet saloon, where the night forgot its roar, I could feel your presence leaning, like you walked this road before. In the quiet saloon where Grace sat down beside me, all the storms I carried started drifting free. Through the lantern light and the stillness deep, you awakened hope from its rusted sleep. In the quiet saloon where Grace sat down beside me, I was found so tenderly.
The piano's weary hammers hit the strings with tender care, playing melodies of heartbreak from the ghosts that lingered there. I could almost hear the stories in the echoes of the room, tales of doubt and desperation wrapped in undertones of gloom.
And I saw myself among them, tired, uncertain, worn and small, like a traveler who'd forgotten how to rise after a fall. But the light above the counter flickered warm upon my face, and I sensed you in the silence like a warm unfolding grace.
Then a gust of wind blew softly through the cracks along the wall, and it felt like ancient comfort, bringing peace to cover all.
You were in that fragile stillness, in the dust that caught the glow. You were seated at the table where my trembling heart could go. In the quiet saloon where Grace sat down beside me, every fear I held began to bend and flee, like a river breaking winter's hold. You thought pieces I kept cold. In the quiet saloon where Grace sat down beside me, you restored my dignity. I trace circles on the table with my worn out shaking hand, feeling every year of wandering I could barely understand. Then you spoke, not loud or heavy, not like thunder from the sky, but like kindness gently rising in a whisper close and nigh.
You have searched in empty canyons, you have run from every hill, but the places where you stumbled are the places I am still.
And the floorboards seemed to warm beneath the boots that bore my weight, as if time itself was pausing to let mercy recreate.
Then the piano struck a minor chord that trembled through my chest, and I knew the God who found me wanted more than my distress.
In the quiet saloon where Grace sat down beside me, shame unraveled from its cold decree, and the chords that trembled through the room pushed away the deepest gloom. In the quiet saloon where Grace sat down beside me, I felt love speak quietly. The lantern flickered softer as the night slipped toward the morn, and the shadows on the walls stretched like memories reborn. I leaned back inside the silence with a heart less frail, less torn, feeling pieces fall together where they'd once been crushed and worn. You were patient in that moment, you were calm and deeply kind, laying gentle restoration on the ruins of my mind. And I knew that when tomorrow brought its weight and dust and din, I would carry this saloon light like a lantern held within.
Sit with me when hope is thin, sit with me through.
Sunrise skipping on the hillside, painting fire through the dew. Crickets fading in the distance as the daylight breaks through blue. I hear sparrows start their chorus on the fence behind the barn. Feel the warming of the valley like a soft unfolding charm. Boots tap lightly on the front porch, coffee steaming in my hand, and the rhythm of the morning hums like heaven on the land. I breathe deep the cedar fragrance as the breeze begins to roam. In the quiet of first sunlight, I feel love that calls me home. Not a whisper of the world, just a gentle, holy kindness saying, child, I'm always near. And the golden sky keeps rising, lifting shadows as it goes. Every dawn becomes a sermon only grateful hearts can know. Love that lifts the daybreak, stronger than the night, sweeping off the heavy hours with a burst of morning light. Love that lifts the daybreak, pulls my soul away. Oh Lord, I see your goodness in the love that lifts the daybreak. Down the gravel road I'm walking, where the sunlight hits the stream. Every ripple sends a glimmer, like a waking childhood dream. I remember early mornings when my grandpa fed the cows, singing low old gospel stories with the sweat upon his brows. He would smile and say, now listen boy, peace ain't found in what you've done. It's the grace that shows up daily when the world is barely spun, and those words return like thunder, soft and steady in their grace, turning simple country moments into something time can't erase. So I hum the tune he taught me as the river winds along, and your presence wraps around me like the ending of a song. Every mile that meets the morning, every heartbeat lifted free, feels like mercy on the hillside, pouring down in front of me. Love that lifts the daybreak, sweeping fear aside, rolling like the pinewood breeze across the countryside. Love that lifts the daybreak, opens up the gate. Oh Lord, I rise to meet you in the love that lifts the daybreak. There are days I trip on heartache, days I stumble through the rain, when the sky turns gray and heavy with the weight of hidden pain. But the moment morning touches all the rooftops, all the fields, I can feel a quiet power in the hope that daylight yields. You remind me storms are seasons, never rulers of the land, and the sun will break. One note fell into the silence first, a single tone, low, alone. Rolling through the empty chapel like a whisper carved in stone. Trembled with a quiet power in the rafters overhead. Woke the dust upon the hymnals and the pews where saints once bled. I stood still beside the doorway, hands unsteady at my side, feeling every fault within me. I had struggled long to hide, but the note kept ringing gently like a comfort for my ache, as if heaven played a warning that the dawn was soon to wake. And I breathed for the first time in what felt like many years, as that lonely falling piano note softly gathered all my fears. One note fell into the silence first, echoed through my scattered soul. By peace, the wall surrendered every hidden, wounded hole. In the quiet of that moment, I felt mercy break the curse, all because a single piano note fell into the silence first. Then another tone came after, softly rising like a sigh, like the prayer of weary fathers who had run out of a cry. It glided through the evening light that slipped across the floor, touched the corners of my memory I had locked behind a door. And the way the sound expanded made the shadows seem less tall, made the failures I remembered feel much smaller than it all. Every tone became a lantern in the dusk around my chest, telling me I wasn't broken, just too tired to confess. So I whispered very softly, Lord, I'm fragile the piano answered gently with a chord I used to know. One note fell into the silence first, then a trembling holy line, and the sound began to gather all the pain I called still mine, till the echoes met my heartbeat and dissolved the bitter thirst for the grace that came in music, fell into the silence first. I remember childhood mornings where my mother used to play on a piano missing ivory in a house that smelled of hay. Every Sunday she would linger on a chord she couldn't name, and she'd hum a song of mercy till her trembling voice became something steady, something fearless, something brave enough to lift all the burdens of the family like a quiet holy gift. And the echo in this chapel held the memory soft and true, like the tears I hadn't offered had a place to fall anew. One note fell into the silence first, then the flood of peace began. Every sorrow formed a river running straight through where I stand. And the God who shaped the music reached inside the things I nursed, healed them slowly, gently, when one note fell into the silence first. If tomorrow brings me trouble and the storms return with might, I will seek the quiet chapel where the keys restore my sight. For the God who used a single note to loosen all my pain is the God who keeps repeating songs that make me whole again. I've been walking down a back road where the gravel meets the clay, with a suitcase full of questions I've been dragging day to day. There's a faded little chapel with its windows cracked and worn, and a rusted metal mailbox where old letters once were born. I've stood outside that wooden door with dust upon my boots, too ashamed of all my wandering, too unsure of all my roots. But the evening breeze kept humming like a choir without a name, and I wondered if you'd meet me, even covered up in shame. So I pushed the creaking doorway, stepped in slow on tired knees, smelled the pine wood and the candles, heard you whisper through the breeze.
I said, Lord, I've got no clever words, just a heart that's worn and thin. You replied with gentle silence, then the music rolled within. Sing me through the valley when my courage starts to fall. Let your melody be stronger than the voices in the hall. When the canyon walls are towering and my strength feels small and frail, sing me through the valley. Let your mercy be my trail. There's a kitchen in my memory with a radio on the shelf, where my mama hummed old hymns while she worked there by herself. She would sway beside the table with her apron tied in blue, and she'd say, when days get heavy, let the Lord sing over you. Now the corners of that memory are as soft as cotton thread, and the house we used to live in only lives inside my head. But the tune she used to mumble in the early morning light comes back around like distant thunder rolling low across the night. When I'm staring at the ceiling, counting cracks along the paint, I can almost hear her whisper, He is stronger than you think. So I turn down all the noise and let the stillness fill the room, and I feel a holy rhythm start to drive away the gloom. I don't always have the answers, I don't always feel you near, but when everything is quiet, I can hear you through the fear. Sing me through the valley where the night feels twice as long. Let your kindness find a rhythm, turn my groaning into song. When the road is rough and narrow and the map is torn and pale, sing me through the valley, let your mercy be my trail. I have stood beside the railroad where the freight trains thunder past, watch the names on steel and iron fade like seasons moving fast. All the plans I thought were certain felt like boxcars rolling by, full of things I never carried into years that turned and died. I've tried building my own kingdom out of habits, pride, and skill, but it crumbled like an old barn on the far side of the hill. So I brought you all the wreckage, every splintered board and beam, laid it down like busted lumber at the river of your stream. Then you traced a brand new blueprint with a carpenter's sure hand, using pieces of the stories I could barely understand. You said I don't waste any moment, I don't toss your years away. All the chapters that you hated, I can fold into today. Sing me through the valley when the storms begin to rise, drown the accusations with a song that never dies. When the ground feels cracked and crooked and my prayers are thin and frail, There's a hillside by the county line with wildflowers in the clay, where the wooden cross is leaning just above the highway. People pass it in a hurry, barely turning in their seats. Heaven know the same to stoving and then beneath them feet. If tomorrow brings me detours that I never saw ahead, if I wake to find the plans I made have all come down instead, I will reach back through the memories of the chapels, fields, and tracks, where your voice turned simple moments into roads that led me back. I will stare down every rumor that I'm walking this alone, call to mind the countless mercies I have.
The old ship's bell was ringing where the shoreline folds to gray, a lonely tone that drifted through the cold Atlantic spray. Its echo touched the harbor like a memory in the wind, calling out to weary sailors and the fears they held within. And the lighthouse on the headland dimmed to embers in the mist, while the foghorn from the channel sang a note I could not resist. I walked along the frozen pier with my collar pulled up tight, watching ghostly winter breakers blur the edges of the night. And before a single prayer could form, before my breath was free, the beacon sent a trembling glow across the winter sea. And I felt my spirit stirring in that frigid coastal roar, for a light that breaks through winter speaks of love you can't ignore. The beacon that called through the winter sea reached the trembling parts of me. Though the dark was deep and the cold ran wild, still the lighthouse called me like a child. Through the frost, through the fear, through the broken debris, I was found by the beacon in the winter sea. Beneath my footsteps grown with stories long and old, tales of storms that nearly shattered every ship that had been told. I could see the rust on anchor chains still shaking from the tide, hear the creaking mast of vessels that had barely survived. And it made me think of seasons when my courage snapped in two, when the world felt like an ocean no one ever got it through. But the beacon kept its vigil when I drifted out too far, like a guardian in the distance, shining steady as a star. Its glow said, though you wandered, though your strength was lost at sea, I have never stopped the watching, never failed to carry thee. And each wave that crashed beneath me seemed to whisper through the foam, you were never meant for drowning, there is light to guide you home. The beacon that called through the winter sea stood its ground hours held by the beacon on the winter sea. Snow began to fall in spirals where the tide met frozen land, and the flakes that touched the seawall felt like mercy on my hand. I remembered quiet evenings when I tried to hide my scars, when the night inside was darker than the sky without its stars. But the lighthouse on the headland seemed to breathe with living flame, casting warmth on icy water, calling out my fragile name. And I realized every moment I believed I'd sink alone was a lie. The waves kept shouting to distract me from the throne. For the one who shaped the oceans, who commands the winter wind, placed that beacon on the headland just to call me back again. The beacon that called through the winter sea pulled the anchor out of me. All the weight I dragged for years and miles loosened gently in its steady trials, and the night that swore it would conquer me broke apart by the beacon on the winter sea. When the clouds split open softly and the moon began to rise, silver danced along the water like a truth I'd compromised. I stepped closer to the railing where the salt froze on the steel, closed my eyes against the ocean just to feel what I could feel. And there, wrapped in icy starlight, with the harbor far behind, came a peace that wasn't borrowed, came a healing unassigned. It was quiet, slow and holy, like an oath you'd always keep, like a warmth that melts the frostbite where my shadows used to sleep. And I whispered, Lord, I hear you, even here in winter's plea. For the beacon kept on calling through the endless winter sea. Guide me through the channels deep, guide me when the storm won't sleep. Every wave, every storm, every fragile plea, I was found by the beacon on the winter sea. Lead me past the cliffs of doubt, lead me when the lights go out, lead me till the storms reroute, lead me with your steadfast shout. Someday when the old train sighed into the station with a weary iron groan, its metal heart still glowing like a lantern cast in stone. Night had wrapped the tracks in silver, cold and trembling in its breath, and the wind ran down the platform like a hymn that whispered death. I stepped forward through the frostlight with my collar raised in fear, for the world felt wide and empty and my past was drawing near. The steam curled up around me like a memory set free, and I wondered if redemption had a place for one like me. But then the engine's fading hum grew soft like heaven's sigh, and in that fragile quietness I felt you standing nigh. In the hollow of that station, where the rails seemed worn and old, you were speaking through the stillness, through the dark, the frost, the cold.
The night the old train led me back to grace, I saw mercy take its place. Through the smoke and winter shadows, through the fears I couldn't face, the night the old train led me back to grace became my saving place.
I found an empty wooden bench beside the frozen iron tracks, where the echoes of the freight cars carried stories on their backs. Every lonesome whistle fading sounded much like years I lost, blowing dreams I never honored into nights of holocaust. Yet the lantern by the depot flickered soft against the gloom, painting warmth upon the platform like a promise to resume. And I knew that every failure riding hard behind my name was a journey you had followed with a patient, gentle flame. For no darkness on that rail line, no mistake along my route could erase the quiet calling that your love would not let doubt. And the rumble of the freight car slowly fading from the bend sang a truth I'd never trusted: you're not walking without end.
The night the old train led me back to grace, every fear fell out of place. With the distant wheels still humming like a prayer I couldn't trace, the night the old train led me back to grace, pulled me from disgrace.
Snow began to fall like feathers, drifting down from morning skies, soft and slow as if the heavens needed time to sympathize. And the platform lights grew hazy, casting halos through the air, giving shape to holy moments I had been too numb to bear. Then the steam that wrapped my shoulders felt like arms around my doubt, like the warmth I'd long abandoned, rising slow from hollowed out. And you spoke not with a thunder, not with fire through the night, but with something small and certain, like a star's first subtle light. You are not the sum of failings, nor the storms you tried to chase. You are mine, and I will guide you till your heart returns to grace.
The night the old train led me back to grace, hope lit up my broken space. Through the frost, the steam, the trembling, through the memories I'd misplaced, the night the old train led me back to grace
as the final lamps grew dim, feeling every quiet footstep become part of heaven's hymn. All the shame I'd carried inward, all the doubting thoughts I'd fed, found a place to melt and scatter where the tracks stretched on ahead. And the rails beneath the starlight gleamed like mercy's silver thread, leading on to distant cities where my deepest wounds had bled. Yet I knew no road or railway, no horizon far or near, could erase the truth you gave me when you whispered, I am here. So I stood and breathed the night in with the cold against my face, and I thanked you for the moment that the old train led to grace.
Guide me when the rails run long, guide me through the midnight wrong, guide me when my heart grows weak, guide me, Lord, in what I seek. Lead me past the stations torn, lead me where new hope is born, lead me through the winter's scorn, lead me, Lord.
The rumble of a distant freight cut softly through the dawn, rolling low beneath the hillside like an old familiar song. The track beside the metal gleam blend silver in the cold, stretching far beyond the valley where the whispered stories told. I stepped onto the wooden platform with my jacket pulled in tight, watching steam rise from the engine like a prayer taking flight. And before I spoke a single word, before I named my heaviness, I felt your presence humming through the heartbeat of the press. The steel guitar inside my mind began to echo back the sound, as if heaven tuned the engines that were shaking all the ground. And in that slow, unhurried thunder, in that gentle metal hum, I could hear a truth you whispered, child, I know the road you've come. These are the rails you laid beneath my wandering steps, lines of mercy stretching farther than regret. Where the world feels wide and the nights feel long, your tracks keep singing like a steady, faithful song. And these are the rails you laid beneath my wandering steps, guiding me home with every breath. I remember riding boxcars with my hopes stacked far too high, thinking freedom was a distance somewhere past the county sky. I thought wisdom lived in movement, thought redemption rode the train. But the further that I traveled, I kept finding deeper pain. Still the rails beneath the freight car held my trembling weight with grace.
and the rhythm of their clatter felt like hands that held me safe. Through the far towns and the back roads, through the shadows thick and steep, you were pacing right beside me, though I swore you were asleep. And the wind that brushed the freight ties carried whispers in its sweet. You're still walking on the rails I laid. I have miles for you to keep. There were detours lined with heartache, there were sidetracks filled with shame, but your love kept turning signals on the tracks that called my name. These are the rails you laid beneath my wandering steps, where the steel stays firm though my courage will. When the storms rolled through and the night grew deep, your guiding rhythm kept my soul from losing sleep. These are the rails you laid beneath my wandering steps, holding me fast with no regrets. I have walked along the cross ties when the engine stopped their run, feeling splinters in the timber while the day throbbed with the sun. And I've knelt beside the gravel with my fears spread like a map, tracing routes I thought were failures, circling all the things I lacked. But you held each shaky moment like the bolts that grip the rail, and you anchored every heart wound where the truth refused to fail. I could hear the steel guitar line through the silence of my doubt, every bend and slide declaring I won't ever cast you out. So I stood back up remembering how you stitched my broken miles, how the rails that seemed like boundaries became grace in quiet styles. These are the rails you laid beneath my wandering steps, turning broken roads into gentle duets, where my weakness stumbled and my hope withdrew. Every mile of track kept pointing back to you. These are the rails you laid beneath my wandering steps, loving the places I once went. When the twilight hit the valley and the engine lights grew dim, I could feel a deeper stirring, something old and something hymned. And the rails that stretched before me glowed like sacred amber threads, lining up the path of mercy I had traveled in my stead. I walked slowly past the freight yard, past the cabins, past the mill, heard a country choir murmuring in the distance, soft and still. And I knew deep in my ribcage, in the rhythm of my breath, that the rails beneath my footsteps were the reason I had rest. You had laid them long before me, through each loss and every climb, through the choices I regretted, through the edges of my time. Let the rail cars be my teachers, let the whistle be my guide, let the low hum of the steel tracks be the truth I hold inside. Let the night sky A lone harmonica was crying on the far side of the ridge, blowing soft against the dust like a ghost along the bridge. The mountain wind was humming low through canyon, stone and pine, carving echoes in the passes like a message out of time. My boots pressed into dust and shale, each step a fragile sound, while the horse beside me snorted at the cold that wrapped the ground. And before I spoke a single thought to name the ache inside, your presence rode the twilight like a shadow on the tide. The wind swept through the canyon floor, leaned close beside my frame, and whispered through the harmonica, child, I know your hidden shame. In the hollow of the highlands where the wild cliffs scarred the sky, I felt grace in every gust of wind that kept urging me to try. The wind carried your name across the ridge, soft as mercy on a trembling bridge. Through the darkening trails and the fading light, your voice chased down my fleeing night. The wind carried your name across the ridge, and it steadied every broken edge. I stopped beside a weathered log where the river thinned a thread, where old miners carved initials for the dreams they left for dead. The campfire ashes, long gone cold, still held the ghost of hope, like the remnants of a lifetime someone fought so hard to cope. And I thought about the seasons when I wandered far from rest, chasing gold that turned to gravel, leaving truth I once possessed. Yet even then the mountain wind kept searching for my trail, kept weaving through the narrow paths where shame was quick to sail. It carried quiet warnings through the needles of the fir, and in the soft hum of the canyon I could swear I heard you stir. You were in the shifting breezes, in the hush where fear resides. You were riding through the gullies when I tried my best to hide. The wind carried your name across the ridge, calling gently where my fears would lodge. Every stumble on the rocky climb meant a whisper turning back the time. The wind carried your name across the ridge, and my failures lost their privilege. Dusk grew into deeper dusk as the shadows fused with stone, and the sky turned into violet where the stars began their throne. I followed where the ridgeline bent like a spine against the blue, feeling every breath of evening tug me quietly toward you. My horse's hooves struck rhythms like a prayer I couldn't speak, like a heart beating when my faith felt faint and weak, and the harmonica kept weeping with a beauty sharp and thin, while the wind took up the melody and wrapped me from within. Then you spoke, not in thunder but in whispers soft and grand. You're not lost within these highlands, I have always held your hand. The wind carried your name across the ridge, pulled me back from every trembling ledge, through the barren slopes and the valley's rim, through the places where the hope grew dim. The wind carried your name across the ridge, and it broke the chains I'd sworn were fixed. Night fell slow upon the mesas, painting shadows long and wide, and the stars began their watching like old prophets in the sky. I tethered down my weary mare beside a crooked wooden stake, felt the cool earth hold my footsteps like a memory awake, and the stillness of the canyon wrapped a warmth around my chest, soft as hands of ancient kindness pulling sorrow into rest. I lay down upon the saddle, stared at heavens born anew, and I knew that every gust of wind was carrying me to you. The harmonica's faint echo drifted somewhere past the trees, like a final note of comfort carried high by mountain breeze. Guide me through the rugged climb, 3 soft bells are ringing gently where the morning met the stone, echoes folding through the rafters with a warmth I'd never known. And before the sun approached us, before daylight touched the lawn, a small choir hummed a single note to invite the coming dawn. I stood frozen in the stillness as the harmony grew thin, like a fragile thread of heaven weaving peace beneath my skin. The children's hum grew brighter as the shadows lost their claim, and a whisper stirred my spirit when I heard you call my name. The quiet in that moment felt like mercy on my chest, and the trembling in my heartbeat finally slowed itself to rest.
For in the echoes of their humming, in that low and sacred tone, I felt grace begin its healing in a place I'd walked alone.
When the little voices rose before the dawn, all my restless fears were gone. With a single note of innocence, they pulled my shadowed heart along. When the little voices rose before the dawn, hope returned like morning dawn. There were days I'd carried heartache like a stone inside my coat,
dragging doubts through heavy weather, barely managing to float. All the years I hid my sorrow in the corners of my grin, found a place to be uncovered when the children's hum came in. For their song was not a melody, just breath shaped into light, and it washed across my memory like forgiveness taking flight. I could feel the weight unravel, thread by thread around my spine, till the ache I thought was permanent grew quiet by design. And the bells kept gently ringing with a promise deep and true, that the dawn you shaped for others still had room enough for me too. And the softness of their humming held a truth I'd failed to see, that you mend the wounded places with a childlike purity. When the little voices rose before the dawn, all the grief I leaned upon loosened slowly from my shoulders like a winter finally gone. When the little voices rose before the dawn, faith felt new, not overdrawn. Then the morning broke in colors that no painter could define, golden lavender and honey spilling soft across the pine. And the children stopped their humming just as daylight kissed the floor, but the silence they left after spoke much deeper than before. I remember nights of trembling when my prayers were barely breathed, when I stared into the darkness thinking sorrow meant my death. But the dawn through stained glass windows taught me something I'd forgot, that the smallest sound of worship can undo the deepest knot. And I knew the God of ages, who commands the storms to flee, also listens to the whispers of the smallest harmony. When the little voices rose before the dawn, every doubt I leaned upon melted like a shadow fading when the brighter light was drawn. When the little voices rose before the dawn, I felt grace, reborn and strong. So I knelt beside the altar where the children once had stood, letting memories of silence settle deep within my blood. And I promised in that moment I would learn their gentle song, not of perfect choral measures, but of trusting all along. For the God who shapes the cosmos and who sets the planets free still delights in little voices who hum softly, trusting He. And if ever fear returning tries to steal the peace I've known, I will listen for the humming that once held me when I'd grown. Teach me how to enter quiet, teach me how to breathe again, teach me how to find the morning in the places I have been. Teach me how a single whisper can restore what storms have torn, how a hum from little children can revive a heart forlorn.
dawn I meet his last. When my bones grow light with heaven and the shadows all have passed, let the angels hum a welcome like those children long ago. Let their voices rise in softness as eternal breezes blow. And I'll walk into the kingdom where the morning never dies, where the bells ring out in wonder as the light floods every sky. For the moment that first humming
The night was long, the road was bare, the wind was cold and filled with prayer. I held my breath for one more mile, trying hard to force a smile.
My hands were weak, my heart was thin. I didn't know where to begin, but in the dark, so still, so slight, a whisper rose, I'm with you tonight.
And though the moon was hiding low, your quiet warmth began to glow. There is a light that lives in midnight, a hope that rises in the black. It doesn't shout, it simply settles and gently guides my footsteps back. When all the world feels lost and silent, and fear begins to press the tide, you show me love that doesn't falter, a light that lives in midnight. The hours dragged, the sky stood still. A trembling thought began to fill. What if morning never came? What if sorrow stayed the same?
But then a warmth touched my chest, soft as kindness, pure as rest. It wasn't loud, it wasn't bright, just steady, calm, and full of light.
And even when I couldn't see, your hope kept rising quietly. There is a light that lives in midnight, a truth that holds when I can't stand. It wraps around the broken edges like gentle hands that understand. When every dream feels faint and fragile, when joy is nowhere left inside, you fill the cracks with patient mercy, a light that lives in midnight. I've walked through storms without a shield, too tired to fight, too worn to yield. But in those hours, cold and thin, trembling deep within.
No promises of instant dawn, but strength enough to carry on. And sometimes hope is just that small, a single spark that doesn't fall.
There is a light that lives in midnight, a flame no darkness overwhelms. It holds its ground through heavy shadows, a quiet king of broken realms. When all my strength is barely breathing, when every step becomes a fight, you stand beside my fragile spirit, a light that lives in midnight. So when the dusk grows deep again and doubts return like phantom wind, I'll look toward the faintest hue, the tiny glow that leads me through.
For hope is not the roar of day, but something soft that doesn't sway, a borrowed strength until the sun returns to say the night is done.
You shine in places, light a voids. You speak in spaces filled with noise. You stay when every fear takes hold, a warmth that never once grows cold.
You guard the minutes no one sees. You calm the tears that fall to knees. And when I whisper I'm not right, you answer I'm your guiding light.
There